Now we're going to continue with Arnold Ehret's formula for health. But we must be careful and we must remember to use technology with wisdom, and it could save our life. But if we use it with no wisdom, it can destroy our life by making us lazy, weak, and tired. The formula for health, as I said, came to me when I read this book by Arnold Ehret, The Cause and Cure of Human Illness, which pretty much sums up his other book, The Mucosal Diet Healing System and Rational Fasting. Now, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea about his book. He talks a lot about some things that have to be translated to today's times. Like, for example, he talks about eating a high fruit diet. We're going to talk about why that's not ideal today to do that. He talks about eating coffee and tea. We're going to talk about why it's not ideal to do that today. But we have to understand, over 100 years ago when he wrote this book, more than 100 years ago, those things weren't the same thing they are today. They've been so manipulated and they're so much worse for us today than they ever were. But today, his formula for health, the principles of it can still be used for the ideal health for us all. And the formula for health I'm going to give you now, and I invite you all to write it down because it's so important for all of us. The formula for health is this. Power minus obstruction equals vitality. Power minus obstruction equals vitality. Now, what in the world does that mean? Power minus obstruction equals vitality. This is what it means. It means health minus disease equals wellness. Health minus disease equals wellness. Now, we might not have control over everything in this life containing to our health, but if we take care of the things we do have control over, we will never have to worry about the minor things that we don't have control over. As long as we have enough health, we don't have to worry about the little disease, and we will be in a state of vitality. As long as we have enough power to get rid of the obstruction, we will be in a state of health. So the key to health is always to have power. But once that obstruction passes that rate of power, and the obstruction becomes more than the power, that's when we suffer from the little stages of disease. And then it comes back worse and worse and worse. The key is to always make sure we have more power than obstruction. Now we start out, we don't have to do many things to be healthy. We have to do a lot of work to get ourselves sick. We have to abuse our bodies tremendously over and over again to end up in a state of disease. Because we start out with a tremendous amount of power, but then when we start letting that obstruction creep in our life, we can get away with it every now and then. Somebody thinks it's amazing that somebody could eat a raw food diet and get better from something like cancer. The real amazing thing is that somebody could eat McDonald's as long as they eat it and not get cancer. The human body is an amazing machine. It will last a long time, as long as it has enough power to do so. But when we start wasting our power, slowly but surely we're leading towards the destruction. Because once our obstruction passes that power, we're in trouble. So here we start off with a tremendous amount of power and very little obstruction in our life. Then we say, well, tonight I'm going to eat something bad. Bam, less power, more obstruction. Then we say, now if that's all we did, we'd still be in a state of health. But then we say, you know what, that was good, I'll do that again. Bam, less power, more obstruction. Then we say, well, tonight I'm going to sleep a little later. I go to sleep late at night because I want to watch something on TV. Bam, less power, more obstruction. As soon as that power is more than, as long as it's more, we'll be healthy. But there will come a point where that obstruction will pass that power, and we will no longer have the power to get rid of the obstruction. So the key to health, and then the more obstruction we have, the later stages of disease we suffer from. So the key to health is to always make sure we have enough power. Now the obvious question would be is, where do we get the power? And the answer is, from energy. No matter how powerful your car might be, if you don't have the gas to move that car is not going anywhere. It's the energy that creates the power to get rid of the obstruction. Now the obvious question would be, where do we get the energy from? And here's the answer. We don't get it from anywhere. We have it. We lose it when we waste the energy on things we shouldn't be doing, like overeating, not even eating the foods that are ideal for us, eating too late at night, not getting enough rest, not getting enough sleep, getting stressed out about things we shouldn't be getting stressed out about. We have all this energy, and when we waste it, we're lessening our power and building the obstruction. When we get the proper amount of sleep every night, when we eat the foods that are created meant for us to be foods, the fruits and the vegetables in a raw, ripe, fresh, organic, live state, every single night we will recharge our batteries, and we will always, always have enough power to create enough energy to get rid of that obstruction. Always. When I read the Bible and then I wrote this book, Health According to the Scriptures, I found two amazing things. I found many amazing things, but two of the amazing things that I wrote about was, number one, was that our Creator never wants us to suffer from disease. He wants us to be healthy. And the other thing I read was, we can die before our set time, based on the way we live and what we do. If we listen to what He told us to do, we will always have enough energy and power to get rid of the obstruction. If we go against what He tells us to do, the obstruction will build so quickly and the power will diminish, and that's where we end up in trouble. It's very simple to stay healthy. It takes a lot of work to get sick. But since many of us has gotten ourselves sick after doing all this abuse, it's going to take us a lot of work to get better again. But after all this work to get better again, we can do very little and stay healthy, if we don't start messing up again to get ourselves sick. So we have to maintain that energy. Now here's a problem. People mistaken true energy for stimulation. And stimulation is not true energy. The energy is what we get when we automatically recharge our batteries, when we get the good sleep, when we get the foods we're supposed to eat, and we eat them in the right way, and so on. Stimulation is something different. Stimulation is a false sense of energy that goes up and down, and we get it from these crazy drinks and these crazy drugs. These crazy drinks like Gatorade, if it glows in the dark, it's not good for you. It shouldn't be in your body. And then these other crazy drinks like Red Bull, one of the most dangerous things you can put in your body. You want a real appropriate name for that? Call it Red Bull something else. It's not good for us. But people are drinking these things like crazy, and it's giving them that false stimulation that I got when I was younger from the Jolt. The caffeine and all these other drugs in there, yeah, we feel great. You can smoke crack and feel great, but it's not good for you. The true energy we need is always there as long as we get enough sleep and eat the right foods. Now, how can we do that from a diet standpoint and make this formula happen? This is where most people get confused when it comes to nutrition. There's three things we have to think about when it comes to food, and we cannot exclude one of them and pick and choose. A high quality food has these three things in it, and if we eat these three things in the ways I'm going to describe now, we will always have enough energy to create enough power to always get rid of obstruction. But when we cut these things short, that's when we start cutting our health short, and that's when we start getting sicker and so on. By the way, if you have any cell phones or pages, leave them on, I don't care. Enjoy yourself. If somebody's calling you, it might be important. Remember, we have to make sure we have enough energy to do it, and we're going to talk about now the way to eat the foods. There's three ways. We need to make sure we eat the foods that give our body the most nutrients while using the least amount of energy to get those nutrients while keeping the environment of the body as clean as possible. That's it. I'm going to say that again. The highest quality foods for our body are the foods that give our bodies the most nutrients while using the least amount of energy to get those nutrients while keeping the environment of the body as clean as possible. That's it right there. Now here's the problem. We'll look at each part of that. The first part is nutrition, nutrients. What food has nutrients? That's where everyone's looking today, and that's a mistake. Because everything has nutrition in it. Everything has nutrients. You could eat fruit, you could eat vegetables, you could eat bread, you could eat meat, you could eat a cardboard box. It all has nutrition. The problem is, how much energy are we using to get those nutrients? And that's the key to health. Because the key to health is conserving the energy we have. So yeah, you could eat meat, you could eat bread, you could eat all these things, and you can get nutrients from it, but you're wasting energy because you don't have to eat those things. You don't have to waste that energy because it's harder to digest. The key is eating the things that are going to digest the easiest and get the nutrients the easiest. And what foods would those be? Well, let's look at an example. Picture there was a juicer here. And picture you put in that juicer a carrot, an apple, some spinach. What you're going to get out of that is juice, liquid. And it's going to go through the juicer very simply. It's going to come out of the juicer very simply. Now, what's going to happen to that juicer if you put a piece of bread in there? Or a chicken wing? What's going to happen is it's going to start shaking and smoking, and eventually it's going to break. It's not going to